Back in the pre-time skip, the five elders have a scene where they talk about Blackbeard and say that there is no historical precedent for a man who's eaten 2 devil fruits. The elders are beings who've lived for centuries, have the world's best spies under their control, and know everything there is to know about the Void Century. Yet to them, Blackbeard is a complete mystery. Or at least he used to be. In the Egghead arc, Saint Saturn has a conversation with the Blackbeard pirates, and he actually reveals that the government, despite knowing nothing about him in the pre-time skip, is now aware of Blackbeard's special race. This means that something happened between the Marineford and Egghead arcs for the five elders to come by this knowledge, and I think I know just the man who revealed Blackbeard's race to them. When Shamrock met the elders during the Reverie, the reason for this meeting was information, where he wanted to talk to them about a certain pirate. Interestingly, in the very next chapter, we see Imu tearing apart pictures of Luffy, Shirahoshi, and Blackbeard. If we look at all this evidence together, a timeline begins to emerge. First, the elders after Marineford had no idea what Blackbeard was. Then during the Reverie, Shamrock has a talk with them about his certain pirate. Then in the chapter right after this, Imu is seen tearing apart Blackbeard's bounty poster. Then later in the Egghead arc, it is confirmed that the elders have learned the truth about Blackbeard's race. There is however one last juicy piece of evidence missing on this timeline that personally convinced me about this theory. Near the beginning of the Wano arc, we learned that Blackbeard's bounty was around 2.2 billion berry. At the beginning of the Egghead arc, however, Blackbeard's bounty had jumped to almost double that amount, where it was at almost 4 billion. Yet, Blackbeard had personally done absolutely nothing to earn this bounty increase. In the timeline, a few weeks had passed between these two scenes, yet the only thing Blackbeard did in this period was sail from Pirate Island to Amazon Lily, and by the time he had set anchor, Blackbeard had gotten one of the biggest bounty increases in the entire story. It could however be that Blackbeard did not need to do anything, but that the world government simply discovered that he was a lot more dangerous than they had previously thought. Bounties themselves do not just represent your strength, but your overall threat to the government, which for instance is why someone like Robin had a bounty of a veteran pirate at the age of 8. If we look at the earlier timeline, Shamrock could have told the elders what Blackbeard's special race was. Then in the few weeks following the Reverie, the government released Blackbeard's new bounty, reflecting the fact that they now saw him as a much bigger threat than before. Still, what actually is Blackbeard's race, and how could Shamrock have been the one to finally discover it? I will try to answer both of these questions as best as I can in this video, and I think I should start with how I think the world government decided to investigate Blackbeard after Marineford. The elders in the pre-time skip clearly saw Blackbeard as one of their biggest priorities, where they already predicted that he would become an emperor a year before it happened, and thought that he was already so strong that only the most powerful pirates in the world could stop him. Teach is also a member of the D clan, and the elders literally considered this to be their biggest problem. The government has a history of not letting things like this just be, and they probably immediately got to work on investigating Blackbeard after the war. This is how the government has operated throughout the story. They did a similar manhunt of Roger and everyone associated with him after he found the One Piece, and this manhunt was so thorough that it continued for years after Roger's death, where Cypher Paul combed through every possible person who could have been Roger's child, until they finally decades later found Ace. This is however not the only relentless investigation they've done in the story. In Water 7, the government sent their top CP9 members to the city as double agents to find Pluton's blueprints, on a mission that lasted for 5 years. In Robin's backstory, they committed an entire buster call to wipe out her home country of Ohara for studying the Void Century. After the Ohara incident, they've also been hunting Robin to the ends of the earth, where most people she tried finding refuge from tried selling her to the government. And Robin's now had to spend the last 22 years of her life on the run. Then there is also the government's endless quest to track down the Nika Devil Fruit, where the elders say that the government has been trying to get their hands on it for literal centuries. In light of their history, I believe Blackbeard would very likely have gotten this same treatment, where after the Summit War, the elders immediately started an investigation to figure out how Teach was able to eat 2 devil fruits. In fact, there's one scene that I think strongly hints that they may have already discovered what Blackbeard's 3rd devil fruit was, where Saint Ethan lets it slip that Blackbeard has eaten the like fruit. It is actually an artificial fruit, so even you, my dear viewer, can harness its incredible power by clicking the like button of this video. Now, the idea of Shamrock being the man who finally discovered the truth about Blackbeard could be surprising to a lot of you. In most cases, Cypherpol are the ones who do these investigations, and Shamrock is clearly one of the government's strongest fighters, so using him for something like spy work could seem like a waste. On closer inspection, however, Shamrock's character has already given a few hints that he may in fact be the government's ace in the hole for situations like this, and that he is actually their ultimate spy. He is often hiding under a cloak, and in his introductory scene, the 5 elders said that he is usually not in the Holy Land, despite being a god's knight. Aside from recruiting Loki, spying also appears to be why Shamrock was sent to Elbaf, where the government didn't know what was going on with the giants, and they sent him to investigate. One of the reasons why he likely makes for such a good spy is that Shamrock is one of the most mobile characters in the whole story. He has the same summoning ability as the 5 elders, where he was able to come to Elbaf through the use of the magic circle. This is arguably the most powerful travel ability we've seen so far in the story, where for example, the elders were able to transport themselves from the Holy Land to Egghead Island in an instant, which was a trip that took even someone as fast as Kuma an entire day. Another thing that makes Shamrock a potentially very good spy is his appearance. Shamrock looks exactly like Shanks, and this is actually really important. Shanks is one of the 4 emperors, and someone who's been an important figure in the world of One Piece for years. He also appears to be extremely well connected, where he has ties to some of the most influential figures in the setting, is the ruler of a vast territory of islands, and also seemingly has his very own information network. Shamrock could potentially take advantage of all of this, where he could access a lot of Shanks' information by presenting himself as his brother. This could be the practical reason why he wears a cloak, where Shamrock could wear it in a way that perfectly hides the left side of his body, where no one would see that he does not in fact have Shanks' scar, and that he still has both of his arms. Pretending to be someone you're not is an old trick in One Piece, where a lot of Devil Fruit users in the story have an ability like this, that they've used not only to gather intelligence, but also to topple entire countries. Shamrock taking advantage of Shanks' connections could also be of incredible value in this case, where Shanks is clearly someone who's been obsessed with Blackbeard for years, long before the government themselves even saw him as a threat. With the use of the magic circle, his world government connections, and his very own face, Shamrock during the time skip could have traveled the entire world, tracking down any clues about Blackbeard and his background. This could have involved anything from him studying ancient history, looking at Teach's life when he was a part of the Whitebeard pirates and before, or even pretending to be Shanks and accessing all of his information. However, there is also an alternate take on the theory of this video. What if the man who met the 5 elders wasn't Shamrock, but actually Shanks? If you're at all familiar with my channel, this may sound strange coming from me, since one of my most popular videos was about why the man at the Reverie was likely Shanks' twin, months before Shamrock was introduced to the story. Aside from the clickbait title though, I never actually claimed that it is impossible for this man who met the elders to have been Shanks, just that there was a ton of evidence that it wasn't him, and I still very much believe this man was Shamrock. Just for fun though, let's assume the opposite, and that it was actually Shanks who met the Gorosei, and that this was the one time Shanks went back to the Holy Land Shamrock was talking about. The interesting thing about this video's theory is that I still think it works if we change Shamrock with Shanks. As I've already mentioned, Shanks as an emperor could very well have the resources to figure something like Blackbeard's true race out. And as said before, seeing him as a huge threat basically before anyone else. And we know that he's literally monitoring Blackbeard's movements in the current story. While Shanks clearly doesn't see eye to eye with the celestial dragons, I think this could be the one thing where he would cooperate with them, where he would be willing to share his knowledge about Teach, just to try and stop him. I still firmly believe the man who met the elders during the Reverie was Shamrock, but I figured I should still mention this angle to the theory as well. Now, let's say that this is true, and the government did indeed discover what Blackbeard is in this way. What exactly then is Blackbeard's race, and why is it so special? Personally, I think the clues are all there in the story, and that this was something that was probably set up all the way back in Blackbeard's first scene in Jaya. I've had my own idea on what Blackbeard is, and how he's able to eat multiple devil fruits for quite a few years now, but I've just never had the opportunity to fully address it. The problem is though, this topic could go well beyond the scope of this video, and I had not planned to make a video about Blackbeard's special race anytime soon. I'll make this democratic though, and I promise that I'll start working on that video as soon as this one reaches 1000 likes. Considering that it's been literally months since any of my videos has reached that milestone though, I think it'll be a while until that happens. If you're interested, you can click here to check exactly that video out, where I pretty much prove with 100% certainty that there will only be one more Straw Hat that will be joining Luffy's crew. Other than that, thanks a lot for watching this video to the end.